My name was Mark Sullivan, and if you're hearing this story, it means my plan finally worked. You're about to find out that sometimes justice comes from the most unexpected places, even from beyond the grave. I should have been suspicious when Rebecca started asking about my inheritance in the third week of dating. "Mark, you must have a pretty decent retirement being a cop," she'd say, running her fingers through my hair while we watched TV on the couch. At the time, I thought it was just natural curiosity from a woman interested in building a future with me. How wrong I was. But let me take you back to the beginning. Springfield, Illinois had been my home all my life. I was born on Maple Street, grew up playing in the city parks, and at 23 I fulfilled my dream of becoming a police officer. For 15 years I wore that uniform with pride, believing I could make a difference in my community. Jennifer was a nurse at Springfield General Hospital when we met. I'd been shot in the shoulder during a chase, and she was the one who took care of me in the ER. "You need to stop being a hero and start being more careful," she said as she gently cleaned the wound, completely disarming me with her kindness. We got married 2 years later in a simple ceremony at the city's Methodist church. Jennifer wanted a big family, but after several attempts, doctors told us it would be difficult. So when we found out she was pregnant with twins, it felt like God had answered our prayers. Ryan and Emma were born on a cold November morning in 2017. I held them both in the hospital, one in each arm, and Jennifer smiled with that tired but radiant look only newborn mothers have. "Now we're a complete family," she whispered. For 3 years, we truly were. Jennifer worked part-time to spend more time with the kids. I picked up extra shifts when I could, and on weekends we were inseparable. Ryan was the more adventurous of the two, always wanting to explore every corner of the yard, while Emma was more observant, content to sit and draw for hours. Then Jennifer started complaining about headaches. "It's probably just stress," she'd say, but I noticed how she'd close her eyes when she thought no one was watching. The test results hit like a punch to the gut. Brain cancer, advanced stage. The doctors gave us 6 months, but Jennifer only made it 4. I remember our last conversation. She was in her hospital bed, so fragile she looked like the wind could carry her away. "Mark, promise me you'll take good care of them. Promise me you'll find someone who'll love them as much as I do." "Don't talk like that, Jen. You're going to get better." "Promise," she insisted, squeezing my hand with the strength I didn't know she still had. "I promise." She passed away the next morning, while Ryan and Emma were sleeping at home. I was holding her hand when she left. Being a single dad and a cop is a constant juggling act. I'd wake up at 5 in the morning to make breakfast and get the kids ready for school, work my shift, then rush to pick them up from my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, who kindly watched them until I got home. On weekends, I took Ryan and Emma to the park, the library, anywhere we could just be the three of us. We lived in a modest apartment on Oak Street. Nothing fancy, 2 bedrooms, a small living room, a kitchen barely big enough for the 3 of us. But it was our home. The walls were covered in Emma's drawings and photos from our outings. Ryan had turned a corner of the living room into his fort with pillows and blankets. Money was always tight. My detective salary covered the basics, but luxuries were rare. When Ryan asked for a new bike for his 6th birthday, I had to work extra shifts for 2 months to afford it. But seeing his smile made every extra hour worth it. It was when I was almost ready to give up on a better life for my kids that I got the call from the lawyer. My uncle Patrick, my mother's younger brother, had died of a heart attack in Seattle. We had lost touch in recent years, but he had left me his entire estate, nearly $2 million. Patrick had never married, never had kids, and always said I was like a son to him. When I was a kid, he used to take me fishing at Lake Springfield and always said, "Mark, one day you'll have to take care of a family, and when that day comes, I'll make sure you've got what you need." $2 million, more money than I ever dreamed of having. Even so, I kept our life simple. I kept working, we stayed in the same apartment, and I saved almost all the money for Ryan and Emma's future education. The only real change was that I no longer stressed about the bills at the end of the month. 2 years after Jennifer passed away, when Ryan and Emma were 7, I met Rebecca Hart.
Rebecca came into my life like a hurricane, disguised as a gentle breeze. It was October 2023, and Emma had broken her arm at the school playground. I was in the ER at General Hospital, the same place where I had met Jennifer, when Rebecca walked in to take care of my daughter. "Hi, sweetie. My name is Rebecca. I'm going to take care of you, okay?" she said to Emma, in a sweet voice that immediately caught my attention. She had brown hair that shimmered under the fluorescent lights, green eyes that seemed sincere, and a gentle way of handling children that reminded me, painfully, of Jennifer. While she wrapped Emma's arm, Rebecca chatted with me about being a single dad. "That must be so hard," she said. "I've always admired fathers who raise their kids alone. It shows a special kind of strength." When we left the hospital, Emma asked, "Daddy, the nurse Rebecca is pretty, isn't she?" Ryan, always the blunt one, said, "She looks like Mom when she smiles." 3 days later, Rebecca showed up at our door with an apple pie. "I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd check on how Emma was recovering," she said. But I knew General Hospital was 20 minutes away. The kids loved the pie, and Rebecca stayed for dinner. She helped Emma with her math homework and listened to Ryan talk about his toy cars. When she left, the house felt quieter than usual. We started seeing each other regularly. Rebecca worked the morning shift at the hospital, so sometimes she'd stop by for lunch on my days off. She took Ryan and Emma to the movies, helped with homework, and seemed genuinely interested in being part of our lives. "Mark, I know it might seem soon to say this, but I really care about the three of you. Jennifer must have been an amazing woman to raise such special kids." I was falling in love. For the first time since Jennifer died, I felt like I might actually be happy again. We got married in June 2024, a small ceremony at the same church where Jennifer and I had been married. Ryan was my best man, Emma was the flower girl, and Rebecca looked radiant in her simple dress. During the vows, she promised to love and protect Ryan and Emma as if they were her own. "I promise to be the mother they deserve," she said, looking directly at the kids. At first, everything seemed perfect. Rebecca moved into our apartment and transformed the place. She rearranged the kitchen, hung new curtains, and even set up a little study corner for the kids in the living room. "A family needs a real home," she'd say. But it was during the honeymoon that I started to notice the first changes. We went to a resort in Wisconsin for 3 days, leaving Ryan and Emma with Mrs. Patterson. On the second day, Rebecca got a phone call that clearly upset her. "Who was that?" I asked. "Work," she answered quickly. "An emergency with a patient." But when I picked up her phone to take a picture of us, I saw that the last call was from someone saved as D. When I asked who D was, she said it was Derek, a coworker from the hospital. "Why didn't you save it as Derek?" I asked. "Oh, you know how it is. Sometimes we're just lazy and save it as the first letter." I didn't think much of it at the time. When we got back from the honeymoon, I noticed that Ryan and Emma were different. Quieter, more cautious. Emma, who used to be chatty, barely spoke at dinner. Ryan stopped playing in the living room when Rebecca was around. "What's going on with you two?" I asked one night as I tucked them into bed. "Nothing, Daddy," Emma said quickly, but avoided my eyes. Ryan whispered, "Rebecca said we shouldn't bother you because you're really happy now." "You two never bother me. You know that, right?" They nodded, but I knew something was wrong. I started paying closer attention. Rebecca was perfect whenever I was home. Affectionate with the kids, attentive to their needs, always smiling. But I began to notice little things. Ryan would flinch when she moved too quickly. Emma started having nightmares almost every night, and both of them seemed relieved when I got home from work. "Rebecca, the kids seem a little tense lately," I mentioned one evening. "Mark, they're just adjusting. It's normal. You're being paranoid," she replied, massaging my shoulders. "They adore me. Didn't you see how happy they were when I brought those cupcakes yesterday?" She was right. The kids did seem excited when she brought gifts or sweets, but I was beginning to realize that only happened when I was around. In September, I found the first scratch on Emma's arm. "How did you get hurt, sweetie?" "Fell off my bike," she said quickly. But Emma hardly ever rode her bike, and the scratch looked more like it came from fingernails than from asphalt. A week later, it was Ryan. 3 parallel scratches on his neck. "I got into a fight with Mrs. Patterson's cat," he said. Mrs. Patterson didn't have a cat. I started coming home early, unannounced. One of those times I found the house unusually quiet. Rebecca was in the kitchen cooking dinner, but the kids were nowhere to be found. "Where are Ryan and Emma?" "In their room, doing homework," she said without looking up from the pot. I went to check. The kids were sitting on the bed with their books open, but they looked scared. "Hey, how was school today?" I asked. They looked at each other before answering. It was good, Daddy." Later, when Rebecca went to the bathroom, Emma whispered, "Daddy, Rebecca said if we tell you any secrets, she'll have to send us away." My blood ran cold. "What kind of secrets, sweetie?" "She said it's a secret," and began to cry softly. It was March 2025, when I found the documents that changed everything. Rebecca had gone to the store, and I was looking for the insurance papers in her car when I found a folder hidden under the seat. Inside were printed WhatsApp conversations between her and someone named Derek. "Rebecca, he put the inheritance in a joint account. Once he dies, it's all mine." Derek, "And the kids?" Rebecca, "Temporary problem. I can send them to a shelter later. Say I can't take care of them alone." Derek, "How long do you think it'll take?" Rebecca, "Accidents happen to cops. I just need to be patient." I kept reading and found more evidence. Photos of the kids locked in their room, logs of when she applied punishments, even videos of them crying like some sort of twisted trophy. Rebecca was abusing Ryan and Emma, planning my death, and I had handed everything over to her on a silver platter. That night, I pretended like I didn't know anything. Rebecca made dinner, chatted casually about her day at the hospital, and even kissed my forehead when we went to bed. But I could barely close my eyes. The next day, I began organizing all the evidence. I photographed the documents, saved the conversations, and prepared a full dossier. My plan was to confront her on Friday and turn everything over to the police department on Monday. I should have done it immediately. It was Thursday, March 27th, 2025, when I got the call about a pursuit on Highway 72. A robbery suspect was fleeing toward the rural outskirts of Springfield, and I was the closest detective. I got into my patrol car at 2:30 p.m., still thinking about the dossier I had prepared against Rebecca. All the evidence was in a sealed envelope in my locker at the department, along with a note for my partner, Tom Bradley. "Tom, if anything happens to me, protect my kids. This woman is not who she seems to be." The chase started off normally. The suspect was driving a blue Camaro, speeding, nothing I hadn't dealt with hundreds of times before. I was about 3 miles behind him when we reached the curve near Miller's Creek. That's when everything went wrong. I hit the brake to take the turn, but the pedal went straight for the floor. Nothing. I tried again, pumping desperately, but the car wouldn't slow down. Within seconds, I realized I was going off the road and heading straight for the massive oak tree by the side of the highway. In those last moments before the crash, a strange clarity washed over me. This wasn't an accident. Rebecca had found out that I knew. Somehow, she had sabotaged my car. The last thought I had before hitting the tree was about Ryan and Emma. Who would protect them now? I died instantly on impact. But death wasn't the end of my story. It was only the beginning of my revenge. The funeral was an Oscar-worthy performance. Rebecca played the role of the devastated widow flawlessly. She cried at the right moments, accepted condolences with grace, and held Ryan and Emma as if they were the children she had always dreamed of having. "Mark was a wonderful man," she said during the service, tears streaming down her face. "He loved these children so much. Now it's my responsibility to take care of them the way he would have wanted." Tom Bradley came to pay his respects. He and Rebecca spoke briefly about the practical matters that still needed to be handled. "Are you going to be able to care for the kids on your own?" Tom asked. "I'll do my best, but honestly, it's been really hard. Mark was so involved in their lives. Maybe it would be better if they stayed with a family who can give them the attention they deserve." 2 weeks after the funeral, Rebecca had already begun the process of placing Ryan and Emma into the foster system. She told the judge that, although she loved the children deeply, she wasn't able to care for them properly while dealing with her own grief. "It's what Mark would have wanted," she told the social worker. The judge, moved by Rebecca's apparent selflessness, approved the temporary transfer. Ryan and Emma were sent to the Springfield Children's Home, where they would stay until a permanent adoptive family was found. Meanwhile, Rebecca quickly moved to access the inheritance. As my legal wife and with the joint account documents, it was relatively simple. Within weeks, the $2 million were under her control. Derek moved into our house the following week. They wasted no time enjoying their newfound wealth. They bought a new car, renovated the house, and Derek quit his job at the factory. Rebecca also reduced her hours at the hospital, claiming she needed time to process her loss. But Tom Bradley was more observant than they realized. As my partner for 5 years, Tom knew me better than anyone. He knew I would never have left my children unprotected, no matter what happened. Even if I died in an accident, there would have been some kind of plan, some kind of protection for Ryan and Emma. A year after my death, Tom finally decided to clean out my locker at the department, and that's when he found the envelope. Tom opened it with trembling hands. First came my handwritten note. "Tom, if anything happens to me, protect my kids. This woman is not who she seems to be." Then came the evidence. The WhatsApp messages between Rebecca and Derek, the research on how to claim a deceased spouse's inheritance, the photos of the kids being mistreated, the logs about the sedatives, and a detailed timeline of everything I had discovered. Tom read everything 3 times before he could fully process it. "Son of a bitch," he muttered, remembering how Rebecca had played the perfect widow. But I had done more than just document Rebecca's crimes. I had left a trap. Among the documents was a copy of a report I had forged, dated the day before my death. In it, I claimed to have found evidence that Derek Jones was involved in drug trafficking and money laundering. More importantly, I discovered that Rebecca was using Derek as an intermediary to launder money through hospital accounts. It was a lie, of course, but it was a very well-constructed lie, with fake documents and fabricated evidence that looked completely legit. When Tom dug deeper, he found something I had already suspected. Rebecca and Derek had done this before. Rebecca had been married to 2 other widowed men over the past 8 years. Both died in convenient accidents, and she inherited substantial amounts from each. Tom Bradley took on the investigation personally, but he did it quietly. He knew he needed solid evidence to take down Rebecca and Derek, especially given how well she had played the role of the grieving widow. The first thing Tom did was request a forensic examination of my car. The experts found exactly what I had hoped they would. The brake line had been partially cut. It was a professional job, calculated to fail under extreme pressure, like during a high-speed chase. With the evidence I had collected and the new forensic report, Tom had enough to obtain search warrants. When the police arrived at my old house, Rebecca and Derek were planning a trip to the Bahamas. "You're under arrest for the murder of Detective Mark Sullivan," Tom said as he handcuffed Rebecca. "This is ridiculous. Mark died in an accident. I'm his widow. We know about Derek. We know about the other husbands. And we know what you did to the kids." Rebecca's expression completely changed when she realized the game was over. During interrogation, Derek cracked first. Facing evidence of multiple murders, he confessed everything in exchange for a reduced sentence. He talked about the other killings, how Rebecca would seduce vulnerable widowed men, and how they would carefully plan each accident. Rebecca tried to keep up the act until the very end, but the evidence was overwhelming. The WhatsApp conversations, the sedative logs, the photos of the kids being abused, everything I had meticulously documented. The trial was swift. Rebecca was found guilty of first-degree premeditated murder, child abuse, and fraud. Derek received life in prison for his role in multiple murders. Rebecca was sentenced to death. But the real victory came afterward. When the inheritance was returned, the $2 million went to their rightful heirs, Ryan and Emma. Tom and his wife Sarah, who had never been able to have children of their own, immediately volunteered to adopt the twins. Ryan and Emma, now 8 years old, finally had a family that truly loved them. Tom was kind and patient, reminding them every day how much I loved them. Sarah was warm and nurturing, helping them heal from the trauma Rebecca had caused. 6 months after the adoption, Emma drew a picture of a family of 4. When Sarah asked who they were, Emma pointed and said, "That's Daddy Tom, that's Mommy Sarah, that's Ryan, and that's me." "And who's this one up in the clouds?" Sarah asked, pointing to a figure above. "That's my first daddy. He's watching over us from up there." Ryan, overhearing the conversation, came closer. "Daddy Mark left you guys to take care of us, didn't he?" Tom knelt down to their level. "Your dad was very smart. He knew that no matter what happened, good people would be there to take care of you. Today, Ryan wants to be a police officer just like I was. Emma wants to be a doctor, to help people like I did. They grew up knowing they are loved, protected, and that they have a bright future ahead. My posthumous revenge didn't just bring justice, it gave my children the life they always deserved. And that, to me, is worth more than any revenge."